Hey, welcome to the Going Rounds podcast, episode number 1. Here we are, starting this thing off. Gonna be checking out all the fights, recapping fights, previewing fights, and yeah, just hanging out, talking shit pretty much. Um, First fight we got going is UFC 278. It's a pretty big card. Um, Everybody was back and forth on whether or not this would be entertaining, whether or not this would be really good fights. And as far as I was concerned, the top 3 fights were well worth the money paid for the pay per view. The lower fights were not so interesting. Um, that happens a lot when it comes to these fights. I mean, usually when they say it's a stacked card, it's not always a stacked card. Usually it's the top of the line is going to be where the stacked comes from. This time around, there wasn't massively hugely known fighters, but the main, I guess, I mean, Jose Aldo is a pretty well known fighter. Everybody knows him, everybody knows who he is, and everybody likes him. And he always comes with some entertaining fights. We had Luke Rockhold in there, he's pretty well known. And then, of course, Kamaru Usman, the champion. I mean, not all champions are that well known or that popular, but I mean, he's been coming up pretty much as being one of those well known guys, one of those popular guys. But when it comes down to it, he's fighting somebody that nobody wanted to give a chance in Leon Edwards. Everybody was kind of doubting that one. So we'll get into all that. The first fight that I really want to get into is the third fight from the top, which was Jose Aldo versus Merab Dvalishvili. Um, Really, it was the top 3 fights that were interesting. So those are the top 3 fights I'm going to get into today. So fight number 1 would be Aldo versus Merab. Now, that fight, it was pretty much gonna be a banger from what it looked like, because Jose Aldo is one of those guys who always comes to fight, always comes in fast and strong. And Merab is just a marauder, pretty much. He's called the machine for a reason. He doesn't ever run out of gas, and he's always in here with the will to take people down and just grind them out. And that's what he's all about. And he's pretty much won all his fights that way. So when it came down to it, I thought that it was going to be a tough fight, but I didn't know if Merab was up to the level of Jose Aldo. But the fight went on, started like I thought it would, both of them kind of filling each other out for a minute and then pressing each other. And Merab just kind of kept trying for those takedowns. He kept trying and trying and trying for those takedowns. But man, Jose Aldo's just a true professional. He's got it's so hard to take him down. I mean, most people don't even try. And if they do, they fail. And that's kind of what you're seeing here is Merab having a hard time taking Jose Aldo down. I don't even know what the count was for takedowns or how many official takedowns, but if they did count them as takedowns at any point in time, it was really just for a second. I mean, he didn't really hold him down that much at all. Not as much as I thought he would. So in the end, you know, Aldo had a hard time pulling the trigger, I think. I don't think he really went after Merab like I would have hoped he would. I thought at first that pretty much something was going on with Aldo as far as, you know, I wouldn't say an injury, but something was keeping him very timid. He didn't want to pull the trigger. He didn't want to go after him. He was throwing some leg kicks, which he's failed at recently with other fights. He hasn't been himself throwing those hard, crazy leg kicks. But this time, he threw some out there, and it kind of surprised some people. But I don't know, man. A little lackluster, little lackluster. And Merab looked like he was frustrated with Aldo and the fact that he couldn't get him down. And when he did get him down, he couldn't hold him down. So they started exchanging back and forth. And, when they finally did get some exchanges, and then it was pretty entertaining for the most part, but it was very, very little when it comes down to it. Um, I'm not sure I'm not sure what they were expecting out of each other, and it didn't look like they knew what to expect from each other either. So it was kind of a back and forth feeling out process, trying to be taken down, not be taken down, and then nothing. So I was kind of surprised by that. In the end, Jose Aldo looks pretty damn tired, right? But that's because Marab just kept going, doesn't run out of gas. And he didn't pull the trigger. He didn't do anything to really take Marab out. And that's what he needed to do. He needed to throw those dynamic strikes that he knows how to throw and keep his kicks coming. Maybe timing that takedown attempt. He had so many takedown attempts. He didn't time any knees, any kicks. And of course, it's easier said than done, right? But I don't know. Aldo is just one of those guys where you don't know where that intensity went. It seems like he's still in it. He's still got fight in him, but that intensity that he had before, I don't know if he's scared to get knocked out or if he just doesn't have it anymore. But he's definitely can stick around and fight. But as far as this fight went, he took the L, and that's all there really that's all there really is to it, unfortunately. It went all 3 rounds, and it was intense, it was entertaining, but not as much as it could have been. I would have expected a little bit more, but I'm kind of happy Marab came out with that win. I feel a little bad for Aldo because he is older, but it is what it is. You don't pull the trigger and you don't get the win. That's about how it goes, especially when you have somebody coming at you, pushing you back, and always coming forward towards you over and over and over again. That's what Marab did, and that's how he got the win. And, Aldo, it's been said a lot that he lets these guys do what they need to do and he stays back. And it's like he's not fighting to win, he's just fighting to not get knocked out. So that's a problem, and it's going to continue to be a problem unless he really, takes the time to kind of come after what he wants and realize that, his fight style needs to change just a little bit. It needs to be just a little bit more to the point where he was before, where he had that killer mentality and he was coming after people. Unfortunately, I think that maybe that fight with Conor McGregor, where he got knocked out quickly, might have done a number on him when it comes to the mentality. So maybe it's just age. Maybe he's just ready to get out. I don't know. But hopefully he finds something and it comes back to him and he can have a few more good fights before his career is over. As far as Marab goes, man, this guy just keeps going. That's why he's called the Machine. He's going to keep going too. And we'll see. It's going to be an exciting next matchup, I think, after coming off an Aldo win. I think he'll get somebody good. And hopefully it'll be a great big fight for him. And he'll just keep running up that ladder until he gets to the belt. We'll see what happens with that, though, because that'll be interesting if he's able to get to being in contention for that belt. His best friend and training partner is Aljamain Sterling, and he's got the belt right now in that same division. So that's something that'll be interesting. Maybe Aljo will go up and let Marab fight for that belt, but who knows? We'll see what happens with that. Next fight, though, Paulo Costa versus Luke Rockhold. Now that fight, I had, in the beginning, I was thinking Rockhold doesn't seem like he's fully into this fight. Paulo Costa is always up in everybody's face, talking shit and acting like a fool, because that's what he does. But Rockhold is always kind of reserved. Ever since he hasn't been the champ, he hasn't had that overly aggressive kind of, I don't know, for lack of a better word, I guess I would say asshole type mentality coming towards people. Not as much as he used to when he was a champ. Man, he was aggressive about that. Anyway, when it came to the fight, I was thinking if Rockhold isn't in that mentality, he might not do very well. And he looked like he's in good shape. He sounded like he was ready for this fight. Everything I heard from him ahead of time, it sounded like he was ready, and it sounded like he was in there to get back in to fighting the way he was before. But you never know until they hit that cage, they get in there and they start to fight, and then you really find out what's going on. And this was a crazy fight. It was sloppy. They got tired fast, both of them. I couldn't believe how fast. I mean, they both are chiseled and yoked, and they both got tired so fast. They look like they're in such good shape, and for some reason, neither one of them had any kind of cardio. I think by middle of the second round, they were just both gassed, and they were winging punches. Rockhold was still throwing punches that were meaningful, I guess. They pretty much every time he was connecting, he was connecting strong. Costa was connecting too, same kind of thing. But man, they looked like they were just done by about 2 minutes into the first round. It almost seemed like it was going to be over soon. That somebody was just going to take a punch or get taken down and choked out or something, because that's how tired they were. But neither one of them looked for a way out, which was kind of cool. So that made this fight interesting. And it continued to be interesting, and it got bloody, super bloody. And then we had Rockhold, who couldn't barely even stand up. It looked like he was drunk for most of the fight, which I'm not saying he was. I'm just saying that's how tired he was. He was stumbling, he was falling around. And man, it got to a point where they were back and forth, taking each other down. Rockhold winds up on top. I don't know if he broke his nose or what, but it was leaking, just faucet leaking. And so he puts his face on Costa's face and he rubs blood all over his face. And he just keeps rubbing his face into Costa's face. It was pretty savage. It was pretty gross, I guess, in some ways. Kind of shades of BJ Penn licking his gloves. But this one was a little bit more intense because it's face to face, just draining blood all over the place. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but it was entertaining to say the least. I guess I can definitely justify it that way. The fight itself, though, continuing on, you know, it was lackluster in the technique portion of the fight, but man, it was entertaining. They were winging punches, they were connecting, and then it was kind of like your two drunken uncles fighting in the yard with their hands on their knees and kind of waiting around. It's kind of surprising it lasted as long as it did, but um, after the bloody mess, uh, and man, look at that. It just looks so crazy. After that bloodiness, though, and all that, in the end, unfortunately, Rockhold just couldn't do enough. He couldn't do enough to win that fight, and they gave it to Paulo Costa. So, unfortunately for Rockhold, he didn't come back and win his fight. I don't think he had the cardio. I don't think he had the will to be in there and fight, even though it sounded like he did. So, yeah, Paulo Costa wins, unfortunately, because now we got to hear about it. I'm sure I've already heard some things about him talking about he doesn't know what was wrong with Rockhold and, the blood thing. But, he didn't look that good in his fight either. I mean, he didn't do anything to stop Rockhold. It looked like he might have at some point in time, but he just didn't have it. He was tired too. It was crazy. It's crazy. I mean, not often do you see them get that tired that fast. And it was, I would say 3/4 of the fight were them gasping for air and done. looking done the whole time. I'm just glad that they were kept throwing punches. They kept going at it, and those punches, when they did land, they landed good, and it was good, strong shots. Rockhold was landing some spinning back kicks that were nice, some liver kicks, or trying to hit that liver. I think if he would have caught him, maybe that could have been a turning point. But back and forth, way too tired, and yeah, Rockhold got the loss, and unfortunately, he also retired. He said he's too old for this shit. So, I guess I can't blame him with was after you come out of a fight like that, I don't see how you could continue to think that you have it in you. And he probably felt that he kind of looked defeated by, like I said, the second round. It looked like he was done. And I think I kind of had a feeling if the fight went this way, he was going to retire. But man, he was emotional about it too. And I think it's just because he knows that the thing that he's done and has been known for is over, and it was emotional for him. And it's kind of emotional to watch him that way, because I've watched him since he's been in the UFC and followed his career. And something like that, to be taken out, like, I don't know, it's back and forth for me as far as him going out that way, looking as tired as he did, and looking as, I wouldn't say out of shape, but it seemed like he just didn't have the cardio. He was out of shape when it came to cardio. So, but I guess that's it, it is what it is. And now he called it a career. He left his gloves in the cage and he's done with fighting. So, I mean, I know he's got a lot going on for him outside of the cage. He's a model, for crying out loud. I think he's got enough to keep him going outside of the cage, but it's sad to see him leave this way and have a fight like that as his last one. But thanks for the fights, Rockhold. It's been good. You got to be a champ, and you may not have kept it long, but you were a champ. So got to give you props for that, and send you out with congrats and thanks for the fights. Everybody appreciates the fights that were great, and he definitely had some great fights. So, but that speech, man, that retirement speech was rough to listen to. He couldn't even get through it. The funniest thing he said was, "I'm too old for this shit." And Rogan was trying to get more out of him, but you could tell he didn't have it. He's too tired, too out of breath, too emotional. So, hoping for the best for Rockhold, and on we go. Main event: Usman versus Edwards. Now this fight, I didn't know what to expect from this fight, except for maybe domination by Usman was what I was kind of thinking was going to happen. Edwards is on a 10-fight win streak, man, and he's fought a lot of the big name guys, and he's come through with the win. The last thing everybody remembers is him fighting Nate Diaz, of course, with that in the last minute getting wobbled by a punch from Diaz, and Diaz pointing at him and laughing. If Diaz would have jumped on him, I think he had potential to maybe, at least end that fight with a barrage of punches. I don't think he had enough time to finish the fight. But man, he had Edwards wobbled so much that everyone thought that that's what was going to happen. And it's not. But of course, that's the last thing everybody remembers. And Edwards is kind of sick of hearing about it, I think. But he comes into the title fight on a 10-fight win streak. And, him and Usman has fought before. And Usman won. And it wasn't very entertaining. It was kind of, Usman showed dominance in the ground game, but they were both early in their career, and they showed, it was just kind of a mediocre fight, but Usman won. So, and now he's a champ, and now Edwards gets his chance to fight for that belt. So they go all 4 rounds, and coming from Usman, it's a lot of grappling, of course. Even though as of late he showed a lot of power in his striking, he did show some stuff in there that was, substantial but nothing that he never caught Leon in any which way the way that Nate Diaz did. And so, it was looking though like Usman was going to win that fight. He had it in the bag. I think he had it. Let's see, coming to the fifth round, I think he had 3 rounds to 1. So unless Leon got him in a submission or knocked him out, that was about the only thing he could do to win. Because I don't think he won any more than a round, if that. I could see the judges not even giving him that round. But it was a good fight. I could tell that the crowd was a little bit kind of on that bored side, but I was interested and I kept on it, and I thought, well, it is what it is. We're going to the last couple minutes of round 5, and it's getting to that point where it's going to be over. Usman's going to retain that belt, and poor Leon Edwards, after waiting so long to get a title fight, he's gonna have to just probably win a few more before he gets back there. But then we had a crazy change of events, and man, 1 minute left in the 5th round. Once it hit that 1 minute mark, I was like, it's over, done game, we're done. Because that's what happens, unless the 10 seconds provides something crazy. That last minute's usually like moving around. Last 10 seconds, throw a few punches, make it a bit exciting for the end, and then it's over. But this one, took a turn. We had Leon with a massive head kick, and he threw a feint that got Usman leaning. And when he got him leaning, man, you can see right there, those toes are behind his head because that shin connected with his jaw. It was insane. I couldn't believe that that's what happened in the last minute of the fight. Unfortunately for Usman, folded him in half. As you can see right there, his chin touched his knee as he fell. And Edwards showed restraint. He saw what happened. It looks like he's heading towards him right there in that picture, but he didn't. He pretty much watched him fold in half and then fall backwards, completely out, completely knocked out, stiff, and eyes open still, which makes it even crazier. I mean, that was just the cleanest of clean knockouts that you could find. So in the last minute, I mean, that's why MMA is what it is. You never know what's going to happen. I think it was 50 some seconds left in the round. Last round, round 5, Usman had it in the bag, and this is what happened. And I don't want to say he took any crazy chances. He's still mixing it up with Leon. They're back and forth. They didn't take the last few minutes off, the last few seconds of the round off, which I said earlier is what they usually do. They just kept going at it. Nothing crazy, though. It was just a sequence that happened. Usman went for the feint and put his head down in the right spot at the right moment for Leon to get that head kick in. And man, was it, that was one of those highlight reels that are going to stick around for a while, especially now that Leon is the champ. He got the belt. Super emotional, super happy. I was happy for him. It's not that I don't like Usman, but when those champs stay champs for a while, and then you see someone like Leon come up, he struggled to get a title fight. Every time he gets passed up, he gets looked over. He's been on a 10-fight win streak, fighting a bunch of big names, and he's come out with those wins. And now he gets his chance to get that belt, and he does it in the fashion that he did it in. Even though everybody counted him out, and it looked like he was done, for sure he lost. All we needed was for that clock to run out, and Usman would have retained. And instead, under a minute left, and we get that crazy head kick knockout. That for me made the night. Everyone I was watching the fights with jumped up, screamed, yelled. It was fun. Sucks for Usman the way that he got knocked out. I could tell that might take him down a notch for a minute. They're always gonna save face and say stuff on social media that everything's good. but you could tell the look on his face when he's sitting on the stool after he woke up and came to, and they had him over on the side. Man, he was like, he defeated is the word for sure. But he'll come back. He's strong. He's been a champ for a while. He was about to break Anderson Silva's record, I think, or something like that. But you know, he'll bounce back, and we'll see how quickly he gets that rematch, because now it's 1-1. So the trilogy is there for the taking. But as I said last night to everyone I was watching it with, was there's still that beef with Masvidal and Leon Edwards because of what happened. Man, I don't even know how long it was now, but it's been a while. The 3-piece in soda, where backstage, Masvidal's doing an interview, and Leon Edwards just walks by talking shit from afar, and Masvidal just decides to walk over with his hands behind his back, like, "What'd you say? You want to say it to my face?" And then he just pretty much pulls his hands from behind his back, gives him the 3-piece and a soda, and yeah, Edwards gets nothing back. They break it up, but there it is. That's your storyline right there. You got the beef involved, so of course they're gonna try to go for that. They're gonna try to make something of that, because Masvidal's a big name. He's still there, ready to fight, even though he got knocked out by Usman as badly as he did as well. Usman knocked him out almost as bad as Edwards just knocked out Usman. So that's a potential. I'm already seeing stuff flying around social media about that, and there's always going to be speculations right away, or matchups that are trying to be made right away. But the UFC ultimately decides what's best, and they're going to make the fight. So, but I guarantee next fight for Leon Edwards is either going to be the trilogy with Usman, giving him the immediate rematch, or it's going to be a fight with Jorge Masvidal, because they've given people a fight for the belt for lesser reasons, and I know Masvidal's probably not even ranked, but that beef there, and the superstar that Masvidal is, I could see him giving him that fight. He's no Conor McGregor, but he's definitely up there. So that's next for Leon Edwards. One of the two, the trilogy or the Masvidal fight. So we'll see what happens with that. As far as this is concerned, that's it. That's my recap of those fights. We got fights every week, pretty much. UFC does fights almost every single week. So I should be able to jump on here and be doing a recap or a preview or both. That's what this podcast is going to be about. So I hope you liked what I gave you today. Just a little bit of talk. I got to get myself into this a little more, but hopefully you appreciate that talk. And we'll mess around. It's going to get a little more loose, and I will get a little more fluid with all this. It's the first podcast I do by myself. I'm used to bouncing things off of people, and conversating, but doing a podcast by yourself is a bit different. So for me, this is fun. I like talking fighting. It's easy for me to talk about. So, and I follow it. I listen to other podcasts. I watch everything. Everything there is to watch, I'll watch it. So I'll have whatever info I can, to get through this and talk about all the fights. And I watch all the fights. That's the thing. I really do watch all the fights. If I don't watch them live, I watch them back after. So this podcast will just be talking about everything I know when it comes to those fights, and, having a little fun with it. There's things that might happen within this podcast too. This isn't anything crazy yet. Will it ever be? I don't know. I'm just here to have fun and do this podcast, because podcasting is something that I really like to do. I've been doing another podcast that I do with three other guys, and that's a different dynamic. It's a bit crazy and chaotic sometimes, talking over each other and stuff like that. But you also get a break from talking. You don't have to be the only one to talk and to put the content out there. You don't have anything, or you have things to bounce. You have people to bounce things off of when you have other people involved. But it's fun. All of it's fun. It's a podcast. That's what it is. It's talking. And, hopefully everybody liked, this one, talking about the fights. Check out the shirt, nice fight oriented shirt. Kind of a unique aspect though. So that's something I like doing, is incorporating things in with fighting. So that's kind of what's cool about this shirt. And you're gonna notice stuff that always pops up in the podcast. Stuff like my hat. The Braves is always going to be incorporated because that's my favorite baseball team. So you'll see little stuff here and there that's going to be a constant when it comes to this podcast. In the end, though, hope you enjoyed the recap of the fights, and I'll have more to come. Hopefully, this will evolve into something bigger and better. I will constantly be working on making it more and more interesting and more interactive, getting more things involved, more production, just making sure that it stays interesting and stays just stays interesting and fun to look at and fun to listen to. So until next time, I'll be back with maybe a preview of this upcoming week. I'm gonna got to get all my stuff together and hopefully make it a constant for the day and the time. But we'll get to that. We'll work on that. So appreciate you hanging out for today. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Thanks for checking it out, and like and subscribe and hit that all the things that matter when it comes to YouTube. But I don't know if I'll be going live with this. It might just be uploads. Notification bell I think works for either one. I don't know. I'll get better at this, and I'll become more of a informative person when it comes to what needs to happen on YouTube. But obviously, like and subscribe, that helps me, so more people can get to watch this, and let me know if I'm doing okay with it and if you guys like it. All right. So thanks again for checking it out. And until next time, it's Going Rounds Podcast.